This is going to be a rope wrench. Check it out. So here's the deal. I took a, what's it called? It's a hinge, right? The metal's pretty thick. Okay. And through some help from some guys online, I was able to get some measurements, and then I had to do a little bit of guesstimation as far as the distance between the bolts, especially these two, because this is what cams the rope, and it actually helps you to slow yourself, or actually puts friction on the rope, so then it releases friction on your friction hitch, or whatever device you're using, zigzag or unisender or whatever. Anyway, I've got some stainless steel bolts, 3/8 with some bushings. I have this really fat spacer that I'm going to use for in place of a pulley, and I'll end up getting a slick pin. Right now I'm going to use this. This isn't life safety, it is simply to put friction on the rope, so the rope goes through here, then here, actually around, it goes from the tree here, around here, and then when you put tension from this side down, it makes the rope bend, or turns it into an S, basically, and gives you additional friction. So I am using a bunch of tools. I've got a grinder, I've got a zip wheel here, and then this old drill press. So I've made my 3 holes, and I'm cutting off these pieces now. I'm just kind of making the shape of it, and then I'm going to grind it off and sand it down with my grinding wheel. The reason that I put the bolts in is to make sure that I drill the holes in the exact same spot on both pieces of metal. There's 2 pieces of metal here. This is called a strap hinge. Heavy duty, 8-inch. It's zinc plated, you know, oh well. Just wanted to give this a try without spending $140 bucks. I made this for less than, how much was that hinge? Honestly, I made this for less than $25 in my time. So. So what I'm going to do now is just take the rest of these edges off on the grinding wheel, and then, you know, just take all the burrs off. Try to get them about the same design all the way around. You know, it's kind of hard to do with a zip wheel, so on the stone here it'll be easy to grind them off. Okay, so I have these 3. I cut these, and man, that's really close. All right, people, there it is. So I've got some thread lock, or thread lock's what it's called. Like I said, I'm gonna get a slick pin for this, but just to give it a try, I will use this for now. Probably bend this a little bit more, just slightly. Again, not life safety, it's just to put friction on the line. I snug these down really well. The washers are a locking type of washer, so they've got some teeth underneath to grab, and with a thread lock on top of that. Should never come apart. I might stick one more bolt through here, maybe, but to be honest with you, this thing is pretty solid. I cannot imagine that it would ever let loose. So looks pretty good. going on, Adventureland? This is Fun Dad Adventures. Yes, we are now completing finally our rope wrench. So here's the finished product. This wasn't easy, but it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. I went to Ace Hardware, picked up this rubber grommet. Now it had some threads at the end. It's kind of part of it. I just cut it off so that I could have this section. I'm going to now make my tether. So I needed this. I bought a ring as well. Saw that some of the tethers came with a ring at the bottom to connect to like a chest harness or what have you, to tend the rope wrench on the way up. I've got a piece of cordage here that I'm going to use to make my tether, and I'll wrap it in, probably double wrap it in some high-end industrial strength shrink wrap that has a glue inside of it as well. I'm going to be stitching all of this with 1mm Roboline whipping twine, using some fairly thick, they call these yarn darners, also known as just really large needles. So that's going to be what I use for that. I've cut my cordage already at about 20 inches because I want to make the tether about 10 inches in overall like length, right? I saw some that were 9 inches and I saw some that were 12 inches, so I went closer to the 9 side than the 12 because I like the idea of bringing that or keeping the rope wrench closer to you. So we'll see how that works. But yep, here we go. So when I cut my my cord, I usually use a little bit of tape at the end, basically like so this doesn't go fraying out, and then I'll use a heat gun to just shrink this up and the tape will just kind of burn off. That way I get an end that's like this, kind of, you know, rounded, not a big massive blob at the end. So just a little tip. Okay, live and learn, right? So when I made my rope wrench, I put thread lock on this bolt, which probably could have done without it. So I've got to stitch this around it like so, right? The reason for this piece here is so that when you're on your rope wrench, it will not fall flat down and allow your rope to slip. The idea here is just it kind of catches on this pad. I'm debating on whether or not to cut this lip off. I might do it, not sure just yet. Still playing with it, but I'll have to stitch from here down and then bring this end here and stitch. So I've stitched plenty of these. This is more than enough length. This whipping twine, this Roboline here, probably looking at a 20-pound minimum holdings. So if I'm doubling up, which I will, you're looking at 40-pound holding per stitch, right? So 10 stitches times 40 is what the holding strength should be. So we'll see what happens. I'm still kind of debating on this. I did get some of these other types of washers, just kind of want to play with it. And the end game is that this should not fall down. It should lay like that and not come down like so, where your rope then is completely vertical. That's a bad idea. It's kind of why, if you look at some of the tethers that they sell nowadays, they have some type of a washer or something close to the top. So I kind of wish that I had made the end here just a tad bit thinner. I know that the rope wrench itself is a tad bit thinner at the back end, but this is, again, trial and error, first time around. So that looks like it's going to work pretty well. Okay, so the more I look at this, a lot of time and effort's gone into this, right? I think I'm gonna go ahead and break this loose and hammer this gap down so that it's not that large of a gap. I know the measurements of the rope wrench, so it's just a little wide for my taste.
I think I'll go ahead, and I don't think it'll take me too long. I just got to I got to file some things down and hammer them together by about maybe 1/4 inch, maybe a little more. That's not going to affect the gap here, which is where the rope actually goes in, right? It's just at the back end. So I think I'll go ahead and do that now before making my tether. Okay, truth be told, I did not have much faith in that thread lock, but I have got to tell you that it is not easy to get off. I mean, it wasn't extremely difficult, but I can definitely see how regular use will keep it from coming loose. Plus the washer's a locking washer too, so I might not actually put thread lock back on there because it was pretty darn hard to get off. And I think the residual thread lock that's on there now will hold tight. But yeah, wow. Okay, so it took a little bit of hammering and a little bit of bending with a adjustable wrench, kind of in this fashion, to kind of get the ends to flare out some. But that, my friends, should work. So you can see it plain as day there. We've got a slight bend in the metal, or a tapering, basically. If I was concerned at all about the structural integrity, which I'm not, but if I was, I do have this second set of holes I could put another bolt through, but I honestly do not, with as thick as that is. Let's see, what do we got? 1/8 of an inch steel. The gap here, the inner gap, is approximately 1/2 inch. So that's a perfect fit, I think. I'm gonna even them out, make sure that they're both even. Run them across the wire wheel again, make sure there's no spurs or anything from banging on it with the old hammer there. Should be good to go. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you, the next part is gonna be hard. I gotta take this and I'm gonna have to cut it off with a zip wheel and then brush it down with my grinder. And actually I think I've got an extra one of these. But if not, then I'll have to go back to the store, which I don't want to do. So I'll do this part slowly, but yeah, here we go. Okay, so there we have it. Ugh, it's nasty. Clean it up on the grinding wheel and then the wire brush. Problem with this is it's hollow, so when you put it in a vise, right, just squeezes it. So I'm gonna have to probably tap that out just a little bit, but it'll work. A little bit more. Okay, that is, all right, that is a perfect fit. Wider at the top, narrower at the bottom, perfect. Okay, so the extra work was definitely worth it. This thing now sits completely flush, right? So it'll never drop down like that when I've got tension on it. Again, we don't want the rope to be like this. We want it to have a slight bend, because what it can do is come down on your friction hitch and then run your friction hitch. So, yeah, that's killer. Okay, so there it is, stitched up. This, again, will have that shrink wrap closer to the top here for just a little bit of added support. That's how I do my stitches. I learned this off of a guy on YouTube that stitches sailboat rigging. So if you think about sailboat rigging, you've got sometimes a couple thousand tons of, or not tons, but pounds of pressure dynamically on sales, and these have never failed me. This is not a video on how to stitch. I'll put the video, the link to the other guy in the description, but I've used these personally. I've got tethers that I have used for a while. They've never slipped. I've never seen any issues with them. I weigh 200 pounds, so really confident, especially since this isn't life safety. It's just the tether for the rope wrench, but theoretically that should function like that. That's the hope. I might throw an additional whipping right in here. I'm not sure. Don't want to make it too tight, but I also don't want it to, because when you put some tension on this rope, right, it's gonna stretch the line a little bit. So I don't know. I'm undecided at the moment if I'm going to put some extra stitches here, whipping right at the end, but we'll see. Okay guys, here it is, finished product. I did put an extra whipping around the eye that goes on the rope wrench. If I had to do it again, the only thing I would probably do different is overlap this rope onto this one, just to give it a little bit more stability in the center. The shrink wrap that I have is really strong. I'm gonna double shrink wrap it, but that's really the only thing I would do different. The whipping looks good, and what they call it whipping, it's stitching obviously. But that is it's a solid 9 inches if I measure it out. I thought it was gonna be a little bit, sorry. Yeah, tip to tip, when I pull on it a little bit, it'll have some tension on it. It's 9 inches, so. All right, time to shrink wrap and then put it on the rope wrench. And the last piece of the video would be me actually using it to see how the design works. Look, yes, I could buy this for like 30 bucks. My thing is I like doing this. Like, I enjoy making things. So, you know, it might seem like a waste of time to some. Then again, so do a lot of hobbies, right? But anyhow, looks good to me and looks solid. So let's see how it works. Okay, there it is. It's actually 2.5 shrink wrap. So I put a piece of shrink wrap here, and then I put 2 additional pieces, you know, obviously 2 sleeves. Once this dries, it'll be solid as a rock. So I think this is gonna work awesome. All right, and that's it sitting on the rope wrench. Oh, that doesn't help you, does it? That's it. Let's give it a try. Holds the weight. Works great. So the first thing that I see just offhand is even with the 𝐑𝐨𝐞𝐞 knot, it's still kind of camming or getting caught up here. Holds well. And man, that knot is so easy to move. And when I come off, right, it stays horizontal, doesn't bend over. Spot on. Okay, so after doing some tests with it, like you saw, I ended up putting a little bit more shrink wrap on it, just to give it a little bit more stiffness. So I also wanted to make sure to cover the ends here, because they were showing just a little bit. When you stitch a rope, obviously, you know, it's going to slip in one direction or the other because the stitches have to pull tight. So both, looking at the gap in the middle, they both look like they slipped about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little more in both directions. So just wanted to make sure that my stitching was covered up at the end. The one thing I forgot to do was to put this ring on it. Totally slipped my mind. No big deal though, because with the hitch climber pulley, you can accomplish the same thing with one of the 3 or 2 holes in the pulley itself. But yeah, I totally can tell a difference with this thing. I can definitely see where it is putting less friction on the knot and allowing me to slide down easier, even with a Pressik, which I don't like using the Pressik knot. I like the 𝐬𝐞𝐞 a lot, and I'm going to make another 𝐬𝐞𝐞 tether based on just the way that the device worked, that is a little bit shorter than this one that I have here. That's right, I'll probably use the same line, but this has got a couple of double fishermans and some eyes at the end of it. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful. Hope it showed you that, hey, if you like doing stuff, if you're handy, if you can think through problems, right, you can make stuff. You don't always have to buy it. I'll end up buying one of these anyway because I love the idea. I just wanted to see if I could do this. So looks like a really nice working product for approximately, I'm gonna raise the price a little bit. I'm gonna say probably around 30 bucks is what it cost me to make this. Not including the price of the rope, because I already had the rope. And I'm not really including the price of the whipping twine either, because I'll use that for other projects as well. Okay, so final design. I ended up actually making another tether. I had this one. Well, anyway, you saw it in the video. It was shorter by about 4 inches. It was a 9-inch tether, and this one is right around 12, 13 inches, 13 inches actually, I think it is. And it works much better. So what I was noticing, and I put this fat washer on here, what I was noticing is that when I had the 𝐬𝐞𝐞 knot, or really any knot, every time that I would pull on it to get it up the rope, the knot would end up in this area and it would kink. So now that I've extended the tether, it works much better than it did before. The knot never reaches the actual friction device. Looks good, works as designed or as expected, and I like it a lot. It's really nice. I think that the smaller of the 2 tethers that I can't find for some reason, here it is. I think this one will work fine when I get something like a zigzag, which is what I'm planning on doing. So I've seen a guy that did a video where he had a really small tether for his zigzag. So I'll try this one on that. So one last thing I wanted to tell you was that I ended up taking one of these washers, and if you recall, there is a metal spacer here, right? And you probably can't, you can see it right there. I actually banged the metal spacer through the center of this and then placed it here. It makes this motion here a lot smoother, so good tip. So the last thing I told you I was going to do is give you some measurements so that you have something rough to start with. We're going to measure this side, we're going to measure the top, the width here, the bottom, and the width here, okay? So, start with that. I'm trying to really just kind of go end to end. We're looking at about 4.5 inches, roughly. Yep. This back end, roughly is, where it starts the curve, is about 1 1/8 inches or so. Okay, and bottom end, we're looking at about 3 7/16, and then the top, come on now, roughly 3 inches or so, a little less than 3 inches, right? The inner diameter here is 3/4 of an inch. Down here, the inner diameter is approximately a little less than half an inch. Hold on, just gonna get better. Three-eighths, right, at the skinniest part. Okay, the positions of these holes, right? So I'm going to give you the top measurement, the bottom measurement, and the measurement of this one to this one. Okay, so you should be able to dial those in. Again, I had a back hole and I had this front hole. The hardest one was trying to figure out this one here. So approximately from center, you jumped an inch, it's 3 3/8, and then here it's 3. Okay, but then like what's the angle? That can get a little difficult, so the two are 1 1/4. Yeah, roughly 1 1/4. So, and then the tether is 12 3/4 inch. This spacer here is, it's a 1 3/4 wide by half an inch or so, and then it's got a 3/8 hole that I drilled in the center of it. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever. But you now see it can be done. It's just going to take some time. So, all right, catch you later.